and welcome back to Women Power Impact, a podcast where we discuss women from nonprofits and community organizations doing work to improve outcomes and support women and marginalized communities. Today, we're speaking with Emily Aylott, the co-founder of an organization called Textbooks and Teething Rings. Emily, thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourselves, introduce the organization, talk a little bit about it?
My name is Emily Aylott. I'm the co-founder and speaker at Textbooks and Teething Rings. We are a nonprofit that's geared towards reaching out to young parents who, male or female, but we typically get female teen moms who we encourage to further their education, help reach their financial goals, and really take what some people consider obstacles and turn it into opportunity.
Yeah. And obviously your title is co-founder. So how did you end up founding this organization? What was it born out of?
Yeah. So I love telling the story because I myself was a teen mom. I got pregnant with my son when I was 17. And I guess I just didn't sleep for quite a few years because I just kept working. And I eventually bought my first house at age 20. I got my associates at 19, my bachelor's at 21, my postdoctoral at 26, and then my MBA at also 26. And as I was, going through that process, I kind of hitting those milestones, I had a previous coach of mine reach out to me on social media and said, "Hey, I've been following along and you've been crushing it. I actually teach a GED class that it has a significant amount of teen moms in it. Would you mind coming by and speaking?" And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like so much fun." She was like, "Oh, I'll pay you with a Dunkin's gift card." And I am from Massachusetts, so that was like real life currency for me. And I was really excited. And that one night just transformed into 32 school districts in 2 years. It was just word of mouth of, "Hey, I had this person come talk. Oh, they loved it. Oh, can you give me her number?" And it just transformed into this really amazing thing. I loved it. And it happened at a time too where I was going through my divorce. So it was a huge passion project of mine. I gave a lot of my heart and soul into it to get me through a rough time in my life. And it helps me tremendously.
Wow. I absolutely love that. And kind of, obviously you do support, can you expand on that? Like what do you offer? You said 32 school districts. So kind of how does your programming work?
Yeah. So we do, it's mainly talks. It's mainly they book us for sessions to come talk. I kind of tell my story. I tell tips and tricks that I did to get by to, a lot of people ask more, I would say, the financial side of how did you buy your first home? I think a lot of that has to do with the economy that we're in now. And then people ask how did you know what school to do? It's more, I tell my story and then it's a Q&A. I always give out my number to everybody, my email. They reach out for questions afterwards. And then usually those school districts say, "Hey, can you come back in 6 months?" So I usually do beginning of the year session and then the end of the year session. And yeah, word of mouth just kind of spreads. I honestly have never really had to reach out to school districts. They've always reached out to me. But I think if I had more free time or, if I cloned myself, I could do more. Right now, we are in, because there's two of us, are in Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and one place in Maine. So just New England. But yeah, I'd love to expand the program. I'd love to really get things going. I just need more of me.
But no, that's very, very cool. Why? Obviously it is, but why do you feel it's the most important from both your perspective, your life experience, what you've seen giving these talks? Is this support so critical for a team on these kinds of talks, even just hearing other people's stories? Why is that so important?
Yeah. I think so. Personal experience. I remember being scared, overwhelmed teenager in the delivery room, holding this new life and being so what is going on? And the hospital I was at, they sent in a social worker and they put in front of my face how to apply for food stamps and how to apply for Section 8 housing and it was like I already was being put into this category of I'm not going to be financially successful. I'm not going to be able to support this child. And it was I think that moment was very much like the community is telling me I can't do this. I want to prove them wrong. Maybe that just makes me stubborn. I don't know. But yeah. And then I remember Googling once when I was pregnant too, like, what are the statistics of me graduating high school now that I'm a teen mom or graduating college? Because before I got pregnant, I was touring all these colleges. I had a plan. I had a goal. I was going to move out of state. I was so excited. And I think I Googled it and it's 2% of teen moms graduate college before the age of 30. And I remember thinking like, I mean, that's 1 in 50. It's possible. And I did it. And I love this quote that a girl said to me after one of my talks. She followed me to the parking lot and exchanged numbers and we were chit-chatting. And she said, you know, when I get my bachelor's, you're going to be invited to my grad party. And I was like, I bet. And that is where I went 2 years ago. I was at her grad party. She bought me a drink. And she did amazing. And she told me, and I get a little emotional saying this. She said, if I didn't hear your story of how you climbed your mountain, I never would have started lacing up my own hiking boots. And I think so many people are amazing in their own right, but they need to hear that it's possible for them to really acknowledge that they can do something. And so that's why I think it's important.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. I was like, wow, that's like, that's wow. But obviously previously we had talked about stigma surrounding your work with addiction, but is there a lot of stigma surrounding the work you do with teen moms? Because just culturally, there is often this kind of stigma or like people will look at that and be like, oh my God, like there's a certain mindset. Like, how have you navigated that? How do you kind of work around that in your organization?
Yeah. I think personally, there was a lot of stigmas. I grew up in a pretty affluent community. And so I was like the only teen mom in my high school. Like it wasn't a very popular thing. I used to teach Sunday school before I got pregnant. And then even my church was like, oh, we don't think you should anymore because we don't want that as like a poster, you know? And it was like so many people looked at me differently. I had friends' moms say they didn't want their daughter hanging out with me because they thought I gave off a bad impression. And it was like nobody looked at me as Emily anymore. They looked at me as the one who got pregnant in high school. And it very much shook my identity. And I always say at my talks, like, you're still you. You're very much still you. And after you have this child, you're going to be even more you than before because you now have this motivation to be a better you. And it sucks that you have to prove that to people when you used to not have to. But eventually you're going to hit a point and you're going to look back and you're going to feel so proud that you overcame and proved these people wrong. And you know what? They're probably going to feel like, wow, she did a lot, you know? And it stinks. It stinks people look at you differently. But I mean, that's just society and stigmas. That's the world we live in. And it happens. But it's how you respond to it, I think, that speaks volumes about you and speaks even less about them. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is like the biggest challenge you experienced, like starting it up, also just like the talks that you do? Is there something that you've seen that's been like, okay, this was like something that I had to like work around?
It's really hard so like I talk to a lot of 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And I I can very much say this because I'm a previous 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old. We're stubborn. Teenagers are stubborn. And essentially I'm standing in front of them and saying, you're going to take a harder road. Like, you have the ability to take the easy road, to just take the Section 8 housing, to take the food stamps, to fit into the stigma that society is pushing you in. And it's going to be easier to just do that. Because that's the road that, like, society pushes you down. I was like, but if you push that much harder and take the harder road now, your whole life is going to be easier. And I think sometimes it's hard for teenagers to understand the perspective of how big life is. But I think eventually it clicks. And I know if I had somebody talking to me about how to take the high road and how to, like, not let people's opinions bug me, how to do that when I was like a teenager, I'd be like, oh, they don't even know. But being there and doing that, like, I understand. And I think I think that's my biggest challenge, is people truly hearing that taking the hard road now is going to lead to easier destinations the rest of your life.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this when you shared your story about that girl whose grad party you went to. What is, like, the most satisfying part of, like, giving these talks, hearing the people? Is that the most satisfying part? Like, what do you enjoy the most of this work?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think seeing the progress that these young women are making is so fulfilling. It's so amazing. And I mean, I don't think I had all to do with it. I think a lot of people, they do their own. But hearing the stories, seeing it, I think really it fills up my heart something fierce. Even the smaller milestones, like, I'll get emails and be like, I just got approved for my first apartment because of your financial tips, and, like, all this stuff. And that means just as much to me as the person who got their bachelor's degree or the person that bought their house, because every step is a step forward. And so I just love hearing all the success, no matter how little, big, whatever. I love it.
Yeah. And in relation to what you've seen, what do you think is, like, the biggest piece of advice, both what you give in your talks to these young women, but also just in general, like, just navigating both these challenges and just life in general?
I think the biggest challenges, I think now we're situated in a world where financially it is so hard. It's so hard, no matter what age you are. And then you throw a child into it, and now you have diapers, now you have childcare, now you have this and that. And I think financially it's hard to promote habits like that. Financially it's hard to have people realize that you can save, you can do these routes. And I think also for educational purposes, we were making extreme headways for many, many years. And this kind of ties into what I said also on my other talk with Mothers Against Addiction. There were so many colleges that were having childcare on site or having dorm rooms that had family accessibility, so you could have your child in your dorm. There were so many federal grants that were promoting that are now being put on hold or taken away, which is really sad, because big picture, you're helping your economy grow by giving your community resources to do better. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. But yeah, I think that's a big struggle is just the financial climate we're in and the social climate we're in, which is hard, but it is what it is. It'll get better. That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah. And I think that's because it's like already, again, like financial, like, in whatever situation, it's already so hard, like job market wise, like college education is so expensive. I'm like looking at all these college tours, like, oh my God. But yes, and it is very like disheartening. Like, oh, these like, because it's like it's not really. It's just like, why would you take that away when it's like obviously you're just going to give support and make people more financially independent so that they don't have to go into Section 8 housing and food stamps, like you said. But like, hopefully things get better. But I am very admiring of the work that you do and everything that you're doing to support, and just your story itself was just so inspiring and powerful. Absolutely. And that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you back soon for the next episode of Women Power Impact.